Welcome back, everybody, to the Luke Beasley Show, the bonus show, except it's available to everyone. And as you can see, we are in an unexpected place that I told you about, Columbus, Ohio, on our way to the rally, the Donald Trump rally in Latrobe, Pennsylvania. Yes. And I will warn you up front, I'm with Patrick, that's not the warning, but say hello to the good people.
Hello everybody, I'm Patrick O'Brien.
Who knows how this is gonna work, okay? We're literally out here in the wind, in the elements, and so
we're raw.
Cut us some slack. We thought it'd be pretty cool though to give you an on-the-ground look. Again,
I think it's pretty cool.
Yeah, it's very awesome. Pretty. So this is Columbus. Couple things. First, driving in, super pretty. Of course, we went from Texas all the way up to here. And the odd thing we noticed once we got into Columbus is how desolate it was.
Right, like ghost towny, kind of.
We barely have seen anyone, except for kind of, you'll see some passerbyers here, which is nice. But for the most part, a very empty space, which has been strange. But part of the reason we wanted to do this little trip was to get a look on the ground of both the Trump rally, Pennsylvania, which is going to play a big role in this midterms, depending on who controls the Senate especially, and Ohio, of course, J.D. Vance, Republican, running against the Democratic candidate, Tim Ryan, rooting for Tim Ryan, but of course, Ohio is a red state, so it's going to be a tough race. Mm-hmm. We'll see how that goes. But as always, if you are not already, please go to patreon.com/Luke Beasley. That's where I do a normal bonus show, not in the middle of a town, in a studio, every Saturday for Patreon members. Again, this one's being put out for everyone, just because it's too fun and special to hide from y'all. But for next week's bonus show, go to patreon.com/Luke Beasley. With that being said, let's jump into the first story we'll be doing, standing out here in Columbus. So, Kanye West, the man we have become way too aware of recently, has endorsed, you guessed it, Herschel Walker.
Nice.
Look at this Instagram post. He writes, pro-life in all caps. I guess that's an endorsement, the photo of Herschel Walker.
I would say so.
Yeah, and ick.
Ick is right, Luke. Ick is right.
And you've kept up, I'm sure, with the different Kanye West shenanigans.
Of course, yeah. Unfortunately, before this, I did consider myself a Kanye West fan. So this has been a really...
You had to drop that like a bad habit.
Yeah, I had to drop that like a bad habit. Not the Steve Lacy song, but, you know.
Yeah, but the wild thing, just on the topic of, okay, Kanye West, crazy. He definitely needs to get help, but he's also a huge anti-Semite. And then you have Herschel Walker, who, in any sane world... You would, sorry, the hair is just falling apart. You would think, oh, okay, this guy's going to run. It's going to be a big joke. Everyone's going to laugh about it. And then he'll lose because Raphael Warnock is a perfectly qualified and impressive candidate. And Herschel Walker is a goofball who also has bad views, the few that he can even convey. But that's not the case. Right now, he's leading in the polls.
Yeah. I mean... It really is a unique scenario. We said the same thing about Donald Trump in 2016, right? This is a cartoonish depiction of what a politician would be, and to see now that Herschel Walker is now leading in the polls, I mean, it really does put into perspective the status of our political democracy and the situation that we're in.
And it's almost like people truly have come to believe, this was the case a little bit before Trump, but especially after Trump, that if you have a name I recognize, you're qualified to be in power.
Right, absolutely. It's like celebrity politics.
And that's why that one moment recently from Obama, I don't know if you caught it, from a rally where he's saying, listen, Herschel Walker was a great running back.
Right.
But if you saw him in the airport, you wouldn't be like, fly the plane, you know?
Exactly,
or you wouldn't be like, operate on me, doctor. And that's the same thing with running for Senate. Awesome. I know who you are. You were a great running back. Mm-hmm. That's really incredible. That has nothing to do with your qualification to be senator.
Exactly.
Plus, not to say that you're you could make yourself known to be qualified if you did the proper things, but then of course as this campaign has gone on, not only does he not have the ability to convey his ideas, he also is a humongous hypocrite and liar, being super pro-life. That's part of the wacky thing that Kanye West posted. Pro-life. Is he really the guy who paid for two different women's abortions?
Right. Something else that Obama pointed out that I thought was interesting as well is that ultimately, it's one thing to be a celebrity running for a politician. It's another thing to be a celebrity who has deliberately shown no care towards understanding our political process and understanding how our democracy and our congressional assembly works.
Yeah.
And that's the case for Herschel Walker.
Well, and to play devil's advocate, he has held up a badge. So, I mean,
yes, he did hold up a badge. That is true.
qualifies him for something. I feel like we're in the middle of a windstorm.
I wonder if I went and stole a police officer's badge, if I could also run
You
for
could
Congress
definitely
by
run
any
for
chance.
Senate. There it is. All right, jumping to our next story. First, before we get into it, we're going to look at a moment from Maggie Haberman talking about Trump running again and how a criminal charge could affect that. But where do you stand on the likelihood of Trump running and getting the nomination and then possibly winning in general on those 3 steps?
So running,
he's gonna run?
Yeah, absolutely. I think he's absolutely going to run. I don't think we'd be hearing about him in the media as much if that weren't the case. The second question you posed to me, I'm sorry.
Then getting the nomination, obviously.
Getting the nomination, I could see that as a reality. I mean, you'd have to really consider whether or not Ron DeSantis can pool enough of the MAGA vote to where there'd be enough of a split to where Ron DeSantis could take it over Trump.
Which looks like that can happen still. So then, general, you think this is where I feel better that Trump couldn't win a general election, especially if he'd been charged with something.
Mm-hmm.
But where do you stand on that? General election against
Trump?
a Democrat.
Well, I mean, as this video will point out, that might bring up a different outcome, but you would assume that like a criminal charge or a federal charge against any elected representative would make it harder for them to win any election.
You'd hope. You'd absolutely hope. All right, let's look at this moment from Bill Maher's show.
Maggie, based on all the times you interviewed Trump, what do you think a second Trump term would look like?
A lot like what 2020 would have looked like had COVID not happened, because he was gearing up to put in place people at the NSC who would do what he wanted. He was gearing up to put at the Defense Department people who would do what he wanted. He was gearing up to he thinks everything is personnel. And all these people who were stopping him at various other points in his term were suddenly going to see their mirrors, gone. And he was going to put in people who would do his bidding. I think another Trump term would be a lot of spite. He still has to get people confirmed by the Senate. But if there's a large majority in the Republican Senate in 2024 after that election, he's not going to have that hard a time. So it will be.
I hear he's going to announce his next run
quite soon.
Very soon.
Yes.
Is that?
That's accurate.
You have it on good? I mean, I've been saying all along, there's no way he's not running again. I mean, he never really stopped. He hasn't.
Do you think he'll get the nomination? Like?
Of course.
I think he is the odds-on favorite for it, even if he gets indicted, which is a possibility.
Oh, that'll only make him more popular.
Right. It enhances his appeal with some people.
He's the most narcissistic man in the universe.
So,
what is more ego gratifying than to be at the center of the world stage?
It's not just,
And
that's the main thing, but he also thinks that running gives him insulation against an investigation, and that's a big piece of it right now. He is facing significant investigations in the Justice Department and in Georgia, and he thinks this only helps him.
Yeah, so as they were talking about in the clip, I think it's true that at this point it seems Trump's planning on running. We're heading over right after recording this to his rally, and we'll see kind of how he continues to hint that and everything. But I don't know, as someone in him who is so simply focused on himself, I don't know why he would, like you said, be putting himself out there so much and doing all of this rally work and all this kind of build up to the midterms if he wasn't trying to set himself up to run. So with that being said, how him being charged between now and 2024 with something related to Mar-a-Lago case or in Georgia out of the grand jury investigating his attempts to overturn the 2020 election, I don't know how that affects generally people. I think it would hurt. I do. But I agree with Maggie Haberman that among his core base, that's just going to make them want to fight for him even more.
Right. And I think this really is indicative of a cult of personality around Trump and his character. In any other circumstance, you would logically think that like a fraudulent, or excuse me, not fraudulent, but a case against him in which he's correctly convicted would hurt his chances. But in the instance of the Mar-a-Lago case, it actually bolstered himself in the polls.
Yeah.
So
among Republicans.
Among Republicans, of course, yes. And it just goes to show that really there might not be something that this man can't do that won't bolster his ability to win a primary election, which is really scary.
Definitely, and it reminds me of a story I just covered about him blocking once again his tax returns from getting out, this time to a congressional committee, obviously in Congress, who's trying to get their hands on it. And I was thinking, okay, how long has he avoided this coming out? Clearly there's stuff in his tax returns he doesn't want people seeing, that's why he's avoided them coming out.
Right.
But at this point, if you would be swayed by something like that, dishonest business dealings, or something fishy in his tax returns, or he hasn't been paying taxes, you've already been swayed. You
Right.
already don't support him. And so the
that
people
bar's already been
left
crossed.
are fully on board no matter what he does.
Right.
Which is so strange that he told us that. He said, my supporters would not leave me if I shot someone on Fifth Avenue.
Yeah.
And it was kind of like, oh, okay, well, I mean, maybe that's hyperbolic. At this point, you know they would start saying, it was self-defense, blah, blah, like in real life I'm talking, if he actually
Right.
shot somebody.
I mean, man, I really don't know how else you can characterize this behavior than fascistic in nature. I mean, if you're openly admitting that no action that you could take would ever impact your electability with your constituency.
And it's just this cult around one person.
Right.
Everything that is done wrong, everything that Trump does wrong and he's held accountable for is going to be things being done wrong to Trump.
Right.
It's brutal. Next story I want to talk about, Nancy Pelosi has finally had an opportunity to come out and talk about the attack against her husband. Of course, a man broke into her house, only the husband was there, hit Paul Pelosi over the head with a hammer, was saying that he wanted to wait for Nancy to get home. He was saying, where's Nancy, where's Nancy? Tie her to a chair, question her, and then break her kneecaps if she lied in his mind. So finally she's getting a chance to address that. She's probably been dealing with it in her personal life up until now, and here's what she had to say.
A grateful heart that I thank you for being here with coming together this morning. Usually we're Wednesday, but Paul came home yesterday. That enables me to be at home with all of you. Thank you for your kind words, your prayers, and your good wishes for Paul. It's going to be a long haul, but he will be well. And it's just so tragic how it happened. But nonetheless, we have to be optimistic. He's surrounded by family, so that's a wonderful thing. It's a poem.
And then and apologies again for the wind. We're making it happen, guys.
It's like
She
live weather
goes on,
reporting.
yeah, exactly. You can see here the hurricane's coming in. For some reason, I have to stand in the middle of it to report. She goes on to read a poem, and it just makes you think. She, of course, went home to be with him in the exact same place that this happened. How afraid is she now? I'm sure there's up security and all that, but still, for herself, for him going forward, about what could happen.
I mean, and this sucks for everyone involved in politics, because now no longer are you even safe in your own home.
As we've known before this story, with
Right.
other violent attacks.
And even if your home is broken into, it's very likely that the opposite side might not openly condone those actions.
Condemn, yeah.
Condemn, sorry.
Exactly. No, and not the opposite side, only if the opposite side is the right. Because when bad things happen to right-wing leaders, except for fringe people on the left, broadly the left goes, that was horrible. We
Right.
don't support that. But the most mainstream people on the right could not muster the integrity to just outright condemn, no strings attached, what happened to Paul Pelosi. Instead, this conspiracy theory about it being a gay quarrel went rampant. Of course, we talked about Tucker Carlson bolstering this, Trump himself bolstering it, Donald Trump Jr. posting an animation of Paul Pelosi having sex with his attacker, and that's their response. Instead of just, we don't care at all about the political difference, that's horrible. This is not how a political system can operate. And we've talked privately, Patrick and I, about what that means going forward and how scary of a time we're in because of it.
Absolutely.
Ron DeSantis dropped another epic campaign ad right before the midterms. That is a little much. Like, I get that if you have an ego and you're also religious, you might think God has made this plan an epic plan for my life. But to put in a campaign ad, what you're about to see here, it's a little much, Ron. It's a little much.
Just a little bit.
And on the 8th day, God looked down on his planned paradise and said, I need a protector. So God made a fighter. God said, I need somebody willing to get up before dawn, kiss his family goodbye, travel thousands of miles for no other reason than to serve the people, to save their jobs, their livelihoods, their liberty, their happiness. So God made a fighter. God said, I need someone to be strong, advocate truth in the midst of hysteria, someone who challenges conventional wisdom and isn't afraid to defend what he knows to be right and just. So God made a fighter. God said, I need somebody who will take the arrows, stand firm in the wake of unrelenting attacks, look a mother in the eyes and tell her that her child will be in school. She can keep her job, go to church, eat dinner with friends, and hold the hand of an aging parent taking their breath for the last time. So God made a fighter. God said, I need a family man. A man who would laugh and then sigh and then reply with smiling eyes when his daughter says she wants to spend her life doing what Dad does. So God made a fighter.
So, in the biblical story, there's 7 days, right? On the 7th day, God rested. On the 8th day, he created Ron DeSantis. That's what the ad is saying.
Yeah, Lauren Boebert was right. I mean, the second coming of Jesus Christ is here.
Yeah.
And Jesus Christ took the form of Ron DeSantis. So
that's so true. If y'all forgot, Lauren Boebert was saying, you know, we need to, I forgot how she phrased it, but it is now the time, and we're witnessing the second coming of Jesus Christ, and we get to be here for it. And as Patrick said, I guess Ron DeSantis is him, Jesus.
he is him.
He is him. But is that what people like? I'm trying to think if there was someone on the political side of the aisle or ideologically that I really liked who made an ad like that. I feel like it would, even though probably not as much, still irk me. And,
Right.
whoa, this isn't about you.
Yeah.
You're supposed to represent a movement and a set of beliefs and a, values that you want to fight for.
Right.
Not like what we've talked about with Trump a bunch, this cult of personality around you.
Right. I mean, this goes to show that in America we no longer have campaign-oriented and policy-oriented campaigning. It really is celebrity and personality campaigning and trying to accrue the biggest cult of personality possible to drive you to a elected seat of office.
Yeah, and part of, I guess, too, they're good at it. The Republicans are way better at all the branding and stuff, whereas the Democrats just get backhanded by the Republicans over and over and are so terrible at campaigning. Joe Biden has done more than most U.S. presidents do in the first 2 years of the term, and it's actually been pretty significant. But he's horrible at making that clear to people. When you talk to an average person, they think Biden just kind of been sleeping the whole time. Even though, like I said, put his record against any other U.S. president first 2 years of the term, and it's been pretty significant. He started American Rescue Plan. He did the bipartisan infrastructure bill. He got us out of the America's longest war. He did the first in over a decade, major pieces of legislation.
Ladies and gentlemen, my apologies.
Major pieces of legislation on gun control. He then passed the Inflation Reduction Act, or not, he didn't do it, but he led the push for it, which was a very significant piece of legislation. So as we stand here in this tornado, the fact that Biden isn't able to make that clear to people in a significant manner shows you that maybe whatever this crap is, I am Jesus, works. Because they're way better, and there's a great chance, better at branding, and there's a great chance they're going to win in the midterms, even though clearly their policies are nowhere close to as good or in the interest of the average working person.
Right.
Oprah Winfrey has endorsed John Fetterman in the Pennsylvania race. We're going to be in Pennsylvania in about 4.5 hours. And that's good, but part of the reason why this is significant, I don't know if you know this, so Dr. Oz, kind of, quack doctor,
Right.
had his show, all that type of stuff.
Local politicians, yep.
And now he's running. He was kind of made by Oprah Winfrey.
Really?
She brought him on and made him a little bit of a celebrity and that's kind of what launched to what he became. And so it's significant that she's now coming out and endorsing his opponent, showing that, listen, this guy, what I kind of created, is not good for America, not good for Pennsylvania. Take a look.
I want to tell you this, Laura. Oprah Winfrey has just endorsed Fetterman in Pennsylvania.
Wow.
And it's just interesting in this particular race because that means she's not endorsing her protege, Dr. Mehmet Oz. I mean, who she, let's face it, made famous.
It's true. I mean, that's really kind of stunning. And also the idea of the why and the now. They are early voting there, right? I mean, they could actually vote right now in Pennsylvania based on that endorsement and not even wait till, say, Tuesday. But I wonder why there has been the push now. I wonder what that was reflective of, but I wonder what Dr. Oz is thinking. Oh, to be a fly on that wall.
Let's play it for 1 second so you can hear Oprah in her own words.
But I will tell you all this, if I lived in Pennsylvania, I would have already cast my vote for John Fetterman for many reasons.
That's all you get. You don't hear the specific reasons, but apparently there are many of them. So.
Well, when Oprah says it, I don't know how many people question it. We'll see.
So that's good. I don't know why she waited so long to do it. The midterms are on Tuesday, Oprah. Come on. But she should have done that. And I do think she has sway with a portion of our country. So maybe this will motivate some people. Not that it would make the difference in the race, but everything counts in what is probably going to be a very close race between John Fetterman and Oz. But we'll see. Can you imagine Mehmet Oz as a senator?
Honestly, yes.
True.
Truly, I can. And that's really scary because, again, this is another example of a celebrity, not a politician. This is somebody who made their name not through, local movements or, doing some really good work within a local government and then building their way up, building up their political career. This is somebody who was able to manipulate our media system, now has a chance of being senator.
Right, and like you said, there's no care in the world anymore about what life have you lived, what qualifications you have, and what proposals are you putting forward that makes sense within the position of senator, which is such an important thing. It's just, oh, I heard of Dr. Oz on the TV and Trump endorsed him, so perfect. So scary. Last story, Donald Trump, we're about to go see his rally in Pennsylvania, as I've said multiple times. Hopefully we'll get some good on the ground interviews there. But his Iowa rally that just recently happened was where I would say one of his strongest suggestions of running, and the expectation is among many that once the midterms are over, it's going to be presidential season. There's not going to be barely any stall there, and Trump is likely going to announce. So take a look at this moment from the rally and then we'll discuss.
I did much better the second time than I did the first, getting millions more votes in 2020 than I got in 2016, and likewise getting more votes than any sitting president in the history of our country by far. And now, in order to make our country successful and safe and glorious, I will very, very, very probably do it again, okay? Very, very, very probably.
Very, very, very probably. I will 100% sort of maybe be definitely doing that.
It's almost like he was hungover.
I will very, very definitely probably be doing that. Too good. And I think that's strong. That's strong.
Oh, yeah.
Leaning into it. Because there's some people who still are like, no. He's doing all this for attention. He's not at all planning on running still. He's too afraid of losing again. But I don't think he could right now disappear from the public conversation. And he knows if he decides not to run, no one's going to want to hear from him. And that would be the end of what gives him life, which is attention.
Yeah. I think you can call it here. I think today's the day we can call it. Trump will be running for re-election. If in the event that he doesn't, that was a gigantic waste of time. So are these rallies. And
that's why we're going all the way from Texas to Pennsylvania to cover one.
So, I mean, at the end of the day, the time will tell. However, this looks about as clear-cut as you can get to a second potential term for Donald Trump.
Or an attempt at one.
Attempt at one.
Like I've said, I don't know why I'm so confident. For some reason, I really don't think he could win again in a general. But our country's bonkers, so it totally could happen, and that's really scary.
I think this midterm election really will set the stage for whether or not Trump can actually win another presidency.
And that's the other thing that's scary is we're seeing if Republicans win across the board really in a large manner in the midterms.
Right.
And enough of those election deniers become governors, secretaries of state, and then Trump runs again, there's a high chance that Trump will lose, and they'll go, no, he actually won in our state, and we're going to send electors for him, even though that's not at all where the popular vote went because of fraud that we can't prove. And that's what's being set up, and that is what's so scary. We're going to talk a lot in this upcoming week of the show about kind of the aftermath of the midterms and how that's going to affect the presidential election, because we're going to have to jump right into thinking about constantly 2024, because I know this sounds so campaigny, but it's true. 2024 is the single most important election in the United States in a very long time. Obviously, there's other times in history that probably would be more important, but this one is up there, and I'm a little bit terrified for it, so we'll be doing a lot of coverage of that. Any last thoughts?
Make sure you go vote. If you haven't already, early voting has ended, but Tuesday will be your last day, election day. That's all I can really say to you. Please go vote.
Yep. Thank you all so much. To our patrons who normally get a Saturday show, but again, this is going out to everybody. Thank you so much for supporting the show. If you're not, patreon.com/LukeBeasley is a great way to do that. Not only are you making the show possible, but also getting the full video version of the show, so you don't have to wait for the clips to come out on YouTube. The second the show is done and produced, it gets sent to you directly hours before any of the clips are uploaded to YouTube. And then a Saturday bonus show, like I said. Great stuff. And we will see you with some incredible clips from the rally on Monday.